Michael Johnson was 28 years old. He had just moved to a small town in Oregon. The town was quiet, peaceful, and mostly white. Michael was a software engineer. He had gotten a new job at a tech company, and this was a big step in his career. He came alone. No family. No friends. Just dreams. The first few days felt good. Neighbors smiled at him. A woman across the street brought him cookies. An old man helped him carry boxes. Everyone seemed nice. But slowly, something started to feel different. Michael noticed it first at the grocery store. He greeted the cashier with a smile. She smiled back, but something in her eyes was cold. She didn't say much. But the man behind him. She laughed with him. Called him sweetie. That man was white. Michael brushed it off. Maybe she was having a bad day. Then it happened again. And again. At work, things were professional. No one was rude. But people didn't include him. At lunch, his co-workers sat together. They never asked Michael to join. In meetings, when he gave suggestions, they nodded but quickly moved on. When others spoke, they listened. He told himself, they just don't know me yet. But weeks passed. Nothing changed. One day, he saw a neighbor barbecue party. Around 20 people laughing, talking, drinking. Kids played in the yard. Michael had never been invited. He lived just 3 houses away. Later, he asked a co-worker, didn't know there was a neighborhood party. The co-worker smiled and said, "Oh yeah, it was just a small thing. Nothing big." But Michael had seen it. It was big. He saw the invitation flyers on others' doors. Not on his. Then came the missing packages. Michael ordered a new coffee maker online. It said delivered. But it wasn't there. A week later, it happened again. A neighbor, Mr. Hill, told him, "You should get a P.O. box. This area isn't always safe." Funny. Michael had never heard anyone else say their packages went missing. He checked his security camera. It showed someone walking past. A teenage boy. White. He looked at Michael's porch, paused, and walked away fast. Michael reported it. The police said, "We'll look into it." But nothing happened. One day, Michael went to the homeowners association meeting. He wanted to suggest a small park cleanup event. Kids always played near the pond, and the area was messy. When he raised his hand, the chairman said, "We'll keep that in mind." Next. No one wrote anything down. 2 minutes later, a woman said the exact same thing. The same idea. Everyone nodded and said, "That's a great plan, Susan." Michael sat there, silent. Things got worse. He walked past 2 women talking near the mailbox. They stopped talking when they saw him. They smiled politely. But they didn't say hello. When he walked away, he heard one whisper, "I just don't feel safe." Safe? Why? Michael had no criminal record. No loud music. No trouble. He wore clean clothes. Paid his bills on time. And still, he felt like a stranger in his own street. But the smiles stayed. They still waved. Still said good morning. Still acted polite. It was not hate. It was distance. It was silence. It was fake kindness hiding real rejection. One evening, he sat on his porch with a cup of coffee. He looked at the perfect lawns. The American flags. The clean sidewalks. He thought, this town looks peaceful, but it doesn't want me. It wanted him to stay quiet. Stay invisible. Stay thankful for being accepted, but never really welcomed. This was not loud racism. This was not shouting, or slurs, or violence. This was something deeper. This was racism with a smile. And Michael was not the only one. Alicia Torres worked in a big office building in downtown Chicago. She was 32 years old, smart, confident, and always on time. She wore clean suits, spoke clearly, and knew her job better than most. She had worked at Lenox Bank for almost 6 years. She trained new employees. She stayed late when needed. She never complained. Her manager once said, "Alicia, you're one of our best team players." But Alicia was still waiting. Waiting for a promotion that never came. Every year, the company sent out a promotion list. And every year, her name was not on it. At first, Alicia thought it was bad timing. Then she thought maybe she wasn't loud enough in meetings. So she changed that. She started sharing more ideas, leading more projects, doing even better work. Still, nothing. In January, a new guy named Ethan joined the team. He was nice. Fresh out of college. Still learning. By July, he was promoted to assistant team lead. Alicia had trained him. She tried to stay calm. She asked her manager, Mr. Paul Benson, for a private meeting. She brought her performance reports. Her project list. Even compliments from clients. She said, "I'd like to understand what I need to improve. I've been here 6 years. I believe I've earned a chance." Mr. Benson smiled politely. "Alicia, you're doing great. Everyone likes you. Just keep doing what you're doing. No feedback. No reason. No future plan. Just a soft answer that meant nothing." After the meeting, Alicia went back to her desk. She looked around the floor. All the team leads looked the same. Mostly white. Mostly male. Some less experienced than her. Some who had made mistakes she had cleaned up. She started to see a pattern. Later that month, she helped organize a meeting with a potential client, a Latino-owned business. She spoke Spanish fluently and helped close the deal. After the meeting, a co-worker said jokingly, "You were born for this kind of client." Alicia smiled weakly, but the words stayed in her head. This kind of client? As if she was only useful in certain situations. One day, Alicia stayed late to finish a presentation. She walked past the printer room. She saw papers left on the tray. A document titled, Q4 Leadership Shortlist, Final Review. She wasn't supposed to see it. But her name wasn't there. Again. She recognized other names, all newer, younger, and less qualified. One of them had even made a major financial error last month. It was quietly fixed. Never spoken about again. Alicia didn't sleep that night. Not because she was angry, but because she felt invisible. This wasn't open racism. Nobody used bad words. Nobody insulted her. But somehow, she was always passed over. She was great to have around, but never the one chosen. She was always almost there, but never the one. Systemic racism doesn't shout. It whispers behind closed doors. It hides behind gut feeling, culture fit, and not the right time. It gives the same excuse over and over while pushing others forward. Alicia started looking for another job. In her interview at a different firm, the hiring manager said, "You've done all this, and never got promoted." She smiled and replied, "No. But I learned exactly how the system works." 2 months later, Alicia left Lenox Bank. And on her last day, she walked out with her head high. Because she didn't just leave a job, she left a system that didn't see her worth. Sometimes, racism doesn't block the door. It just makes sure you never get called inside. Emily Harper lived alone in a quiet neighborhood in Atlanta, Georgia. She had a nice 2-bedroom apartment above her garage. Last month, she decided to rent it out. She needed extra money, and the space was perfect for a single person. She cleaned it up, took photos, and posted the ad online. 1 BHK, private entrance, safe area, no pets, background check required, veterans welcome. Within a few hours, emails started coming. Some people didn't qualify. Some had bad credit. Some had pets. Emily rejected them politely. Then one message stood out. Jamal Reed. 34 years old. Army veteran. No criminal record. Great credit score. Quiet, clean, respectful. He wrote. Hi Ms. Harper, I saw your listing. I just moved back to the city. I work full-time and don't party. I'd love to see the place. Emily replied, sure. Come by tomorrow at 4. At exactly 4 p.m., Jamal showed up. He wore a clean shirt, jeans, and a calm smile. He spoke softly. He stood tall. But when Emily opened the door, something changed in her face. She smiled, but only for a second. Her eyes scanned Jamal from head to toe. And then came the words. Oh. I'm sorry. I forgot to take the ad down. The apartment is already taken. Jamal looked confused. Really? It was still live this morning. Emily nodded. Yeah, someone confirmed late last night. Sorry for the trouble. He thanked her and left. No argument. No drama. Just quiet disappointment. But something didn't feel right. 3 days later, Jamal checked the ad again. It was still there. Same price. Same photos. Same text. Same date. He waited another day. Still live. So he decided to try something. He made a new email. He changed his name to Chris Miller. He used a profile photo of a white man. A picture from a stock photo website. Same job. Same background info. Same message. This time, Emily replied in less than 20 minutes. Hi Chris. Yes, it's still available. Can you come by tomorrow afternoon? Jamal sat there, staring at the screen. He wasn't shocked. He was tired. The next day, he didn't go. He watched the house from across the street. At 4 p.m., a man showed up. White. Probably in his 30s. He knocked on Emily's door. She came out smiling. Warm, friendly. She showed him the apartment like nothing had happened. No lies this time. This was not about credit. Not about safety. Not about background checks. This was about color. A week later, Jamal told the story to a friend who was a lawyer. The lawyer shook his head and said, she broke no written law. But we both know what happened. Jamal thought about filing a complaint. But he didn't. He had seen this before. Growing up. In the army. At job interviews. He didn't want a fight. He just wanted a home. He found another apartment 2 weeks later. Different neighborhood. Owned by a retired couple named Sam and Brenda. When they saw him, they smiled. A real smile. Sam shook his hand and said, "Thank you for your service. Welcome home, son." Sometimes racism doesn't scream. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it hides behind smiles and fake excuses. It says, "Sorry, it's taken." When it never was. It says, "You're not the right fit." But never tells you why. This is how it hides. This is how it works. This is one of its faces. Jayden Lee was 17 years old. He was smart, polite, and always quiet in class. His parents were Korean American. They ran a small grocery store in a California suburb. Jayden had always loved history. He read about wars, revolutions, and world leaders. He wanted to study political science in college. His dream was to work in government and make real change. But one day, something happened that made him question everything. It was Thursday. Mrs. Cooper, the history teacher, gave the class a new assignment. Write an essay about immigration and how it shaped America. Use personal stories if you like. Jayden felt excited. Finally, a chance to talk about something real. He wrote about his grandfather. A man who escaped war in Korea. A man who worked 16-hour shifts in a factory. A man who never learned English but made sure his children graduated college. Jayden's essay was emotional, full of details, and supported by facts. He stayed up late 2 nights writing it. He submitted it with pride. 1 week later, the grades came in. Jayden got a B. He was shocked. His friend Mason, who had written only 2 pages and copied most of it from Wikipedia, got an A. Jayden went to Mrs. Cooper after class. "Excuse me, can I ask about my grade?" Mrs. Cooper smiled politely. "Your essay was too emotional. It lacks structure. You focused too much on personal experience." Jayden nodded, but something didn't feel right. That evening, Jayden checked with other students. His classmate, Emily, wrote about her Irish great-grandmother. Full of emotional stories. She got an A+. So why was his essay too emotional? Was his family's story less American? A few days later, Jayden noticed something else. The class was now learning about the 20th century. But there were huge gaps in the lessons. There was nothing about the Chinese Exclusion Act, Japanese internment camps, the Civil Rights Movement, Black history after slavery, the Vietnam War protests. Jayden raised his hand. "Are we going to learn about any of this?" Mrs. Cooper paused. "Some of those topics aren't part of the core curriculum." Jayden looked around. No one else seemed surprised. No one asked more questions. But in that moment, something inside him changed. He went home and told his mom. She said softly, "In this country, some stories are not taught. You have to go find them yourself." Jayden realized this wasn't just about one essay. This was about something bigger. Erasure. Not hate. Not anger. Just silence. Just the quiet choice to leave out certain voices. To pretend pain never happened. To ignore parts of the truth. 2 weeks later, Jayden rewrote his essay. Not for a grade. For himself. He posted it online, titled, "My Grandfather's America, the One You Won't Find in Textbooks." It went viral. Thousands of students read it. Many sent messages. "I thought I was the only one who felt this. Thank you for writing what we couldn't say. Our history matters too." Jayden smiled. Maybe he didn't get an A in class. But he passed the real test. He found his voice and used it. Because racism doesn't always insult you. Sometimes it simply erases you. It skips your name. It deletes your story. It tells you your past isn't worth remembering. But silence is not truth. And forgetting is a choice. Marcus Evans was 18. He had just finished high school in a small town outside Dallas, Texas. He was tall, strong, and fast, the star of his school's track team. He had a full scholarship to a big university. He wanted to study sports medicine. His future looked bright. Marcus loved to jog at night. It helped him clear his mind. No cars. No noise. Just music in his headphones and the sound of his own breath. But one night, everything changed. It was a Thursday. 9:30 p.m. Marcus wore his gray hoodie and black joggers. Nothing unusual. He left his house, stretched a bit, and started running. 2 blocks away, a police car slowly turned the corner behind him. At first, Marcus didn't notice. The lights were off. The car was quiet. But the car kept following. Then, suddenly bright lights. A loud voice through the speaker. Hey! Stop right there. Hands where I can see them. Marcus froze. He pulled out one earbud and turned around, confused. I'm just jogging, he said. The officer stepped out. Officer Ryan Blake White, mid-40s, local cop for 15 years. He had his hand near his holster. We got a call. You match the description of a suspicious person. Marcus kept his hands up. His heart pounded. I live right down the street. I've lived here my whole life. But the officer didn't listen. He asked him to get on the ground. Right there. In the middle of the sidewalk. 10 minutes passed. No backup. No proof. No apology. Another neighbor came out, a white woman named Linda. She saw what was happening and shouted. That's Marcus. He's a good kid. Only then did Officer Blake back off. He smiled like it was nothing. Just doing my job, ma'am. He turned to Marcus and said. You fit the description. No hard feelings. Marcus didn't say a word. He stood up slowly, dusted himself off, and walked home. He didn't go jogging the next night. Or the night after. He started staying in. Quiet. Careful. Nervous. Not because he did anything wrong. But because he now understood something. His skin was a target. Not his actions. Not his past. Just his appearance. A week later, his mom asked him why he wasn't running anymore. He looked at her and said, I don't want to fit the description again. This wasn't the first time it happened in that town. But most stories didn't go public. They ended with a warning. A laugh. Or silence. Because the officer wasn't violent. He was friendly. He smiled. He said, sir. He said, just a misunderstanding. But Marcus knew better. Racism doesn't always wear a badge. Sometimes, it hides behind one. Not all danger comes with shouting. Some comes quietly. Legally. Normally. It says. You match the description. But there was no description. It says. You're not under arrest. But you're on the ground. It says. Just doing my job. But your dignity is already gone. Marcus still got into college. He still became a doctor. But every time he hears sirens behind him, even now his heart skips a beat. Not because he's guilty. But because he remembers. And that's how it works. That's one more hidden face. Clapperboard closing narration, optional for video ending. The 7 hidden faces of racism are not always loud. They're quiet. Clean. Smiling. Legal. But they hurt just the same. In homes, schools, jobs, and streets, they still live among us. The question is, will we keep pretending not to see them?